Ethan Blake observed the city from his office on the 30th floor. The flickering lights and urban bustle seemed distant from the reality he lived in at Williams and Associates, his kingdom for over 30 years. Today, however, that sense of dominion felt fragile. Seated in his leather chair, he drummed his fingers on the mahogany desk, his gaze lost on the horizon where skyscrapers merged with the orange sky of the sunset. He remembered the days when his presence commanded respect and fear, when each one case was another medal on his mantle of success. But now, everything had changed. The office door opened softly. James, the young lawyer everyone considered the next big star, poked his head in. "Do you have a moment, Mr. Blake?" he asked with respect and confidence. Ethan nodded, hiding his annoyance. James entered with a dossier under his arm, sat in front of Ethan, and showed him some inconsistencies in the Jackson case statements that could be used to their advantage. Ethan examined the documents, feeling a pang of insecurity. The young lawyer, with his energy and unwavering ethics, was beginning to eclipse him. "Interesting," Ethan murmured, flipping through the pages quickly. "But we must be careful. The Jackson family has resources and connections. We can't risk a counterattack without being fully prepared." James proposed filing a preliminary motion to discredit the key evidence, which would put the defense on the defensive and buy time to strengthen their position. Ethan nodded, acknowledging the solidity of the strategy, but a shadow of fear still loomed. He leaned forward, looking at James. "This is a chess game, James. Every move counts and we can't afford mistakes. Are you ready?" James held his gaze, showing a determination Ethan almost envied. "Yes, sir, I'm ready." Ethan nodded satisfied, but he knew James was not just ready for the Jackson case, but to take over, to occupy the place Ethan had defended for so long. When James left the office, Ethan was left alone with his thoughts. The weight of the years and expectations bore down on his shoulders. His lion's roar, once strong, was now barely a whisper. However, he was not willing to give up without a fight. "I still have a few tricks up my sleeve," he murmured to himself as he looked at the city from his throne on the 30th floor. In the bathroom mirror of his office, Ethan observed the wrinkles and gray hair, signs of years of struggle. He remembered his childhood, dinners at home dominated by debate, with his father, an authoritarian man, and his mother nodding while his grandparents reminisced about an idealized past. Ethan, being the youngest, absorbed those ideas, shaping his worldview, though he always felt a shadow of discomfort. In college, Ethan was brilliant but solitary. His classmates discussed equality and justice, but he kept a prudent distance. The internal duality reflected in his actions, creating an invisible barrier between him and others. It was during one of those study sessions that he met Emily, a student with a humanistic approach. Her ideals contrasted with Ethan's. After a discussion about judicial reform, Emily asked if he had ever questioned his family's beliefs. Those words resonated in his mind for years. Now, decades later, those shadows from the past still haunted him. He had been driven by a need to prove that the values instilled by his family were correct, but the world had changed. Young lawyers like James represented a new era. Ethan felt the generational and cultural gap growing deeper. One afternoon, after a meeting, Sophia, his assistant, asked what he was thinking about. Ethan replied, "How things have changed." Sophia, aware of the changing times, said, "Times change, Ethan, and we must change with them." Those words, an echo of Emily's, made Ethan reflect. That night, as he left the firm, Ethan walked the city streets, deep in thought. He knew he had to face the shadows of the past and reconcile his history with the present. Although the lion's roar had become a whisper, he still had strength left. He decided it was time to look those shadows in the eye and begin to make peace with them. James Harper, the young lawyer with a brilliant academic record, had arrived at Williams and Associates with great enthusiasm. Despite his effort, He soon noticed suspicious glances and comments about his background. "Have you heard what they say about me?" James asked his friend Ryan, who replied that some thought he was there just to fulfill the diversity quota. James frowned, defending his merit, while Ryan offered his support. Ethan, from a distance, saw James as a threat not only because of his talent but because of what he represented, an inevitable change. He fueled rumors about the young lawyer, suggesting he was there for political reasons. Sophia, loyal to Ethan, listened without openly challenging him. James, determined to face the hostility through his work, threw himself into the Martinez brothers' case, unjustly accused of fraud. He worked tirelessly, and one night, while reviewing documents in the library, Ethan appeared. "What are you doing here so late, Harper?" Ethan asked. James, holding his gaze, defended his work and his belief in justice. Ethan, though irritated, felt a mix of anger and respect. That night, James reflected on Ethan's words. He had overcome greater obstacles before and would not let racism stop him. With the support of his parents, who taught him the importance of perseverance and resilience, James pursued law to make a significant change. His experience in law school and his work on social injustice cases confirmed his passion and purpose. Professor Michael told James after the ruling, "This is just the beginning. The real test is in the real world." Under his guidance, James applied for his first job. Michael encouraged him, highlighting that a firm of such great reach would be ideal for applying his vision of the law in the service of the community. "Always remember who you are and where you come from," he advised. With Michael's mentorship, James not only graduated with honors but also built an invaluable professional network. This prepared him for success, reinforcing his belief in law as an agent of change. However, a storm soon broke out at Williams and Associates. A buyout offer from a large corporation sowed uncertainty among the staff. While the firm descended into chaos, Ethan saw an opportunity. With the sale, his position of power was at risk, and James, with his growing ethics and reputation, became a threat. Ethan ordered his assistant, Sophia, to assign James the most complicated cases, those with little chance of success. Although Sophia hesitated, her loyalty to Ethan compelled her to comply with the orders. James, facing an overwhelming workload with difficult cases, accepted the challenge with determination. "It looks like someone is trying to test you," commented Ryan as they reviewed a complicated file. "I know," replied James, "but I'm not going to let that defeat me." Meanwhile, Ethan launched a campaign to question James' ethics, spreading rumors about his decisions in difficult cases. These rumors, fueled by latent racism, made James the target of suspicious looks and criticism. One afternoon, Ethan confronted James in the firm's library, feigning concern about his ethics and performance. James, though aware it was a trap, defended his integrity calmly. The pressure was immense, but his determination did not waver. The sale of the firm increased the tension, and the conflict between Ethan and James escalated. When it was announced that James and Ethan would work together on the Gonzalez case, tension at the firm grew. The high-profile case, full of corruption accusations, highlighted the differences between Ethan and James' approaches. Ethan wanted aggressive tactics, while James insisted on transparency. The discussions became intense, dividing the team and affecting morale. Ethan, seeing his authority questioned, took drastic measures, manipulating information and trying to isolate James. However, James remained focused on demonstrating that ethics could prevail. In a crucial meeting, James presented an ethical proposal for the Gonzalez case. Although Ethan dismissed it, some senior partners began to support James, recognizing his commitment to justice. Ethan's resentment grew as he saw the unexpected support for James. He decided to spread rumors about James' incompetence, but James remained focused on his work, trusting that the truth would come to light. After an explosive confrontation between Ethan Blake and James Harper, Michael intervened, calling Ethan to a private meeting. Michael, disappointed with Ethan's behavior, warned him about his lack of ethics and gave him a final chance. Although Ethan accepted the warning, his feelings of resentment toward James only increased. In a meeting with the firm's new partners, Ethan tried to unmask James and his relationship with Michael as a conflict of interest. Although he prepared his arguments carefully, the atmosphere at the firm was charged with expectations and nervousness, as James prepared to face the new phase of his career with integrity and determination. Ethan, seeking support, met with skeptical and curious looks from the partners. Although they listened, they were not convinced. A veteran partner, with a serene face and penetrating gaze, said, "We understand your concerns, but we have observed James' performance, and his ethics and skills have been exemplary. We see no evidence of conflict of interest." Ethan felt that his plan was not working as expected. He decided to intensify his attack. And what about favoritism? Michael's presence could influence decisions and create a biased environment. "We must protect the firm's impartiality." The murmurs in the room grew, and Ethan sensed he was losing ground. His desperation increased as he reflected on how much he had sacrificed for the firm and could not accept that James was taking what he had built. Finally, one of the partners announced that, after considering all aspects, not only would James be kept in his position, but he would also be offered a leadership role to guide the firm into a new era. The news was a devastating blow to Ethan. He felt the eyes of everyone on him, some with compassion, others with disapproval. James accepted the role with humility, committing to maintaining the firm's high ethical standards. During his appointment ceremony, he promised to work tirelessly with integrity and justice. The staff's reaction was mixed. Some applauded enthusiastically, while others, especially those aligned with old tactics, showed resentment. Ethan, facing the reality of his situation, knew he had to adapt to the new scheme or face the twilight of his career. He began to work under the new guidelines, but his wounded pride and need to adapt kept him in a constant internal battle. The old tactics of intimidation and control by fear were left behind, and James introduced a collaborative and transparent approach. James implemented firm policies against racism and discrimination, promoting an inclusive environment. He established diversity and inclusion training programs and formed a committee to oversee these policies. Under his leadership, the firm began to take on civil and labor rights cases, defending those who could not afford quality legal representation. These cases, though less lucrative, demonstrated the firm's commitment to justice and equality. The firm's transformation attracted young lawyers and companies committed to social responsibility. James, now a role model, received recognition for his ethical reform and leadership. Williams and Associates became a benchmark in the legal community, demonstrating that ethics and success can coexist. Finally, James celebrated the firm's success at an event marking the end of a tumultuous era and the beginning of a new stage. His leadership and vision transformed the firm into a place of integrity and justice, establishing a lasting legacy of ethics and commitment. During the event, James addressed his team, thanking them for their hard work and highlighting that the path to justice is never easy but always worth it. His message of hope and determination consolidated a sense of renewal and purpose at the firm. Ethan, for his part, faced his legal process alone, with his absence being a shadow of the old practices that had been banished. As the team celebrated, James allowed himself a moment of reflection, recognizing the long road traveled and the importance of maintaining his principles. James' legacy was not only reflected in the firm's achievements but also in the hearts and minds of those who followed him, showing that the true strength of law lies in ethics and justice. What did you think of this story? Leave us your opinion in the comments, like, and subscribe to the channel. Don't miss our next story, it's sure to surprise you.